Hello and welcome to my F1 24 driver career mode here today for part 29 and the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the final European round of the season. But as we come down towards the end of our first run in qualifying, we've set personal best in the first two sectors and we come up to the line, a very long run to the line, and it puts us P12, not the best of laps as we nearly drop it going through the first corner. But come the end of the session, we've set two fastest sectors, purple sector 1, purple sector 2, with 1.5 seconds up on our first run time. As now we come flying down straight, our straight line speed gonna help us this weekend, just like it did in Monza last time out, and we come up to the line, we're gonna cross it, but it's only going to be P3.
Starting line set a few meters away from the Caspian Sea. It is an unusual location, and it is one where starting low down the grid does not mean the end for your race. We've seen Stroll and Sainz take podiums here from the 4th row. Can anyone emulate them today? It's 3.7 miles around a lap of Baku City circuit then, with 7 rights and 13 lefts giving us a total of 20 corners. Watch out for a safety car today. Incidents are already common on this circuit and the wet conditions will only make things worse, particularly through the incredibly narrow Turn 8. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Brown, Gasly, Norris, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Sainz, Perez, Oscar Piastri, Ocon, Albon, Stroll, Hamilton, Tsunoda, Joe, Hülkenberg, Bottas, Ricciardo, and Logan Sargeant. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Here we go then, the formation lap is underway. There are wet conditions here today. Each driver will no doubt be mindful of the wet surface as they prepare to race around the track. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
So here we go then for a wet Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It's meant to dry up. We're racing in Baku, everyone crawling off the line. We've got a fairly decent start compared to Max Verstappen in P2. We're going to look to try and go around the outside of him, but Max covers us off as we try to find the traction. Going down into turn 2, we're a bit too far back to have another go at Max. Behind us is Gasly, great qualifying for him. Leclerc though still leads, looking for his first win in Baku. He's always strong here. And now we head up towards turn 3. We're going for a lunge down the inside of Verstappen. We're just too far back on the Red Bull to get past him. And we'll see what happens in the early stages as Leclerc and Max were starting to slowly pull away. We were just keeping Gasly behind, as this is George going to the outside as we go on to lap 2 around the outside at turn 1. Who's going to get the traction? It looks Gasly's just there, just ahead, as now they go into turn 2 and they've both ghosted for each other. That could have been a bit of a mare, but George is through, and now Lando Norris, who needs a good race today, is alongside Gasly. Around the outside, George runs wide, he's got on a damp patch. Gasly's trying to get back at the inside of George, he can't. And now, can Lando get down the inside of Gasly? It's now a traction race, and Gasly has the traction and keeps that McLaren behind. Lando for the championship needs a a good result today. But now this is Lando. It's taken an extra lap longer than George Russell, but this time he's on the outside of Gasly. Can he get through this time? It's a traction race once again off of turn 1, now into turn 2. Lando's still on the outside. This works for George. Can it work for Lando? As they're now drag racing down towards turn 3. That Alpine and McLaren pretty much the same in a straight line. It's going round the outside though, is Lando. And finally he's got his nose ahead. And finally that Alpine is in his mirrors. As now he can get away. Hopefully get back after George Russell, who was just outside our DRS. We're keeping that gap to just over a second. As on lap 5, McLaren and Max are 3.5 seconds up the road. My aim was to just try and stick with them, because I think we will have the pace when the track does eventually dry. The sun is meant to come out by the end of the race. At lap 7 the rain has stopped, but they are still pulling away quite a bit. The gap now just under 4 seconds, as George Russell, our straight line speed is really keeping us in front of him, as this is Leclerc in the lead, has dropped it, he's hit the wall. Now we're trying to get going again, and that's given an opportunity to Max to try and take the lead of the Grand Prix. He's briefly got his nose ahead, they're side by side. Who was going to get the traction off of the corner? Leclerc just about holds on to the lead in Baku. He nearly binned it like he did in 2019 in qualifying, different corner though. As now we come on to the end of lap 10 and the sun is out, the track is near enough dry, and I think this is the lap that it is time for the dry tyres, as George is close enough to us this time to have a go on us. But it doesn't matter, because we are pulling over and into the pit lane to make hopefully our one and only stop of the day. We're going to take off these intermediate tyres, we're going to put on the HAAS, and hopefully they can do 15 laps to get us to the end of this Grand Prix. And hopefully we've timed it right. Could we potentially gain on Leclerc and Max, who lost a lot of time battling? We've got that gap to just under 2 seconds after that. As now we come back on the pit exit, very slippery, and the first sector as well, as we try and get these tyres up to temperature on this opening lap. As now we come to the end of lap 11, Charles Leclerc, Max now has managed to stick with him. They're both going to pit. This is the lap now. Have we found time on these two? Have we potentially got closer? As onto the HAAS they go. The HAAS is the way to go, it seems. There is George as well. Where did we come out to George? We went into the pit side by side with him, so maybe the battle's more with George as they both come down the pit lane. Where are we? As through turn 1 goes George. Through turn 1 we go. The Mercedes has beat us out. Just George, that extra lap has kept him ahead and got him ahead, but he's going to have to get those tyres up to temperature. So this is the golden opportunity to get past George. Down the inside we go. There's nearly contact, I think, wheel to side pod. We have the extra traction, we have the tyre temperature to sweep round the outside of George Russell and retake that place. Now, have we got the pace that I was hoping we have, and get after Max and Leclerc? As now we're right on the back of Ocon, who given us a lovely tow down the pit straight to keep us ahead of George. Leclerc in the stops has pulled a massive gap on Leclerc, the gap on Max, the gap now 6 seconds, as this is Pierre Gasly, who started P4. He was slowly starting to fall back, but he's dragging everything out of that Alpine, and the engine just keeps blowing up. Every single race, it seems, Gasly ends it on the sidelines. It's now lap 16. The gap in front of us is just under 4 seconds, and we've pulled 3 seconds on the Mercedes of George Russell. We've got great pace, as this is Leclerc leading the Grand Prix. Now 3.5 seconds up the road from Max Verstappen, but he's pulling over. Is it all over for Leclerc? It is. That Ferrari engine has popped its curtains for Leclerc. It's just like 2022 when he retired from the lead with an engine failure. History has repeated itself in 2025. Leclerc's curse, Baku Curse, continues on. He is out of the Grand Prix, but now we are just 3 seconds off the lead of the Grand Prix. Can we make this back-to-back race wins with Monza? Let's see if we can get Max Verstappen for the lead of the Grand Prix. Now that Max is in the lead, this is a crystal overtake for Lando Norris, who overtakes George Russell, who's got an issue with his car. Mark did tell us, because he's dropped like a stone back from us. You can see the gap we've pulled now. We're 8 seconds up the road on lap 23. This is Max. We just couldn't get the gap under 3 seconds. That gap was just staying around 3.5 to 4 seconds. We just couldn't get it down. That Red Bull was just too strong today. But he bided his time, did Max. But on to the final lap now. It's going to be a critical win in terms of the championship for him. Max Verstappen wins in Azerbaijan, and we're going to make it back-to-back podiums and a P2.
He has left the field behind. It is victory for Max Verstappen.
And as we get closer to the end of this year's championship, every race that you put together well now really sets you up for crossing the finish line in the championship in the best possible position. But it's moments like this right now that really matter.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be proud of the victory they've secured here.
So that's been your Azerbaijan Grand Prix here in Baku, won by Max Verstappen. Leclerc's Baku Curse striked again and gifted Max the win here today, you could argue. We finished P2, we did everything to try and catch that Red Bull and try to make it back-to-back wins after last time out in Monza. That Red Bull was just too strong on those hard tyres. The gap just under 4 seconds in the end. Lando Norris got past George Russell to finish on the final step on the podium, taking the fastest lap as well, which really helps him out in the drivers. George finishing 12 seconds behind us after he beat us out in the stops, of course, as well. Just shows you how critical that overtake was whilst he was getting his tyres up to temperature. Alonso, who completed the top 5, Alex Albon, did get a single point for us in P10, so all round it's a 19-point weekend for us. The 2 retirements today, Gasly, Leclerc as well. Logan Sargeant was last off the finishers today in P18. So Max Verstappen now has a 20-point lead in the Drivers' World Championship ahead of Lando Norris. There's still a lot of racing to be done this season, a lot of points still up for grabs. Also, we have 2 sprint races as well. Leclerc championship charge could have really been boosted today, but in the end it's taken a big dent. It is now 68 points back in P3. We've jumped Perez by 2 points. We're now currently sitting P7 in the Drivers' Championship after our back-to-back podiums. Albon is P10, 44 points, 10 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Down at the back, there's still a lot of drivers still yet to score this season. Hulkenberg and Logan Sargeant, both in the HAASes, down at the bottom. So in terms of the constructors then, there's been an 11-point swing as Red Bull retake the lead of the Constructors' Championship after losing out to McLaren a couple of races ago. They've got the lead back again. Mercedes now 106 points back, and then it is Ferrari P4. Our battle with Aston Martin for P5 is going well for us. We are 21 points in front and hitting good form at the right time of the season. And then there's still 2 teams still yet to score, that being Sauber and HAAS. So that's been your Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Then we go into Singapore next time out. We're going to be looking to make it 3 podiums in a row, but until that race in Marina Bay, goodbye.